Picture this. You're about to download an app and check that clean little privacy label. Suddenly you feel like Apple just personally guaranteed your data is safe. Apple built these labels to expose shady apps, while Google and Facebook play fast and loose with your information. Unlike those companies, Apple actually cares about privacy. That's their whole brand now. Today I'll explain why Apple's App Store privacy labels are actually misleading you like you're 5 years old. By the end, you'll understand how developers game the system and why that sense of security might be completely fake. Here's the deal with these privacy nutrition labels. They launched in December 2020, and Apple made a huge deal about it. Look at us. We're the privacy company. We're holding developers accountable. The labels show up on every App Store page now, listing what data gets collected and how it's used. Contact info, location, browsing history, purchases. It's all supposed to be there in black and white. It's like nutrition labels on food, except instead of calories and sugar, you're seeing which apps are data-hungry monsters. You glance at the label, make an informed decision, and download with confidence. Except, here's what Apple doesn't advertise in giant letters across their keynote presentations. These labels are completely self-reported, and nobody's checking if developers are telling the truth. Imagine if restaurants could write their own health inspection scores. Just fill out a form saying, "Yeah, our kitchen is super clean. 5 stars, trust us." That's exactly how Apple's privacy labels work. A developer fills out a questionnaire in App Store Connect and checks some boxes about what data they collect. Whatever they say goes straight onto their app page without scrutiny. Apple doesn't verify it at all, with no audit team diving into the code. There's no automatic scanning to catch lies either. It's the honor system, except we're trusting companies whose entire business model often depends on collecting as much data as humanly possible. And here's where it gets interesting with the enforcement. Apps have been caught red-handed lying on their labels, and Apple's response has been glacially slow. In 2021, researchers found that multiple apps were collecting data they didn't disclose. Some claimed they collected nothing at all. Pristine privacy labels, completely blank. Meanwhile, they were secretly hoovering up device identifiers and location data. Did Apple catch this proactively? Nope. Outside researchers had to expose it, media had to write about it, and only then did Apple send the developers a polite email. The enforcement is entirely reactive. Apple only acts after someone else does the detective work and creates enough public pressure that ignoring it would be embarrassing. But there's more beyond just the lies. Even when labels are technically accurate, they're designed with loopholes you could drive a truck through. If an app collects data but claims it's not linked to you, that information doesn't have to appear in the scary red section. It goes in the friendlier-sounding "data not linked to you" categories. Most people barely glance at those because they sound way less threatening. The problem is that supposedly unlinked data can still be pieced together to identify you later. It's like someone saying, "I'm not following you," while they collect your height, weight, shoe size, the coffee you order every morning, and the exact time you leave for work. Sure, they don't have your name written down, but they know exactly who you are. Third-party SDKs make this situation even messier. These are chunks of code that developers embed in their apps for things like analytics and advertising. Most apps are packed with them, sometimes a dozen or more. When a developer fills out their privacy label, they're supposed to disclose what all those SDKs collect too. But here's the thing. Many developers don't actually know what every SDK is doing under the hood. They just copy-paste the integration code and hope for the best. So the label might say, "We collect your location for app functionality." But it fails to mention the ad SDK buried in there is also collecting your location and selling it to data brokers. Now here's the part that really breaks the system. Developers can change their data collection practices anytime without immediately updating the label. Apple's rules say you need to update your label when you submit a new version of your app. But if you're not pushing an update, that label can stay outdated for months. An app could have a beautiful, clean privacy label from 6 months ago. Since then, they've added 3 new tracking SDKs and started selling your data to anyone with a credit card. But the label still looks pristine because they haven't submitted an app update yet. You're reading last year's nutrition facts while eating this year's completely different recipe. This matters to you because privacy labels were supposed to level the playing field. Apple promised to fix that with transparency and accountability. They position themselves as your defender against the data-hungry app ecosystem. But what they actually built is privacy theater. Something that looks like protection, feels like protection, but doesn't actually protect you in any meaningful way. You feel safer, but the system isn't actually stopping the threats it claims to address. Some apps are absolutely gaming this system on purpose. Free VPNs are a perfect example. They'll have labels claiming minimal data collection. Meanwhile, their entire business model is logging your internet traffic and selling it. Flashlight apps that somehow need access to your contacts. These apps know most users will see a privacy label, assume Apple verified it, and never question what's really happening. The label becomes a trust badge they didn't earn. So what can you actually do about this? First, stop treating privacy labels as gospel truth. They're a starting point, not a verdict on an app's safety. If an app's label seems too good to be true, especially for a free app with no clear business model, it probably is. Second, use App Privacy Report in your iPhone settings. This feature, buried under Settings, Privacy and Security, shows you what apps are actually accessing in real time. Location, camera, microphone, contacts, it logs everything. Check it weekly and you'll catch apps doing things their labels conveniently forgot to mention. Third, assume any free app is collecting more than it admits. If you're not paying with money, you're paying with data. Fourth, look at app reviews and search for privacy concerns from other users. Battery drain from constant location access, network activity when the app should be idle, unexpected permissions requests. These real-world reports often reveal more than any privacy label. Fifth, consider who makes the app and what their track record is. A random developer with 12 other apps that all do slightly sketchy things? That's a red flag. Sixth, check when the app was last updated. If it hasn't been updated in over a year but claims to collect minimal data, that label is probably outdated now. Here's the deeper issue nobody wants to say out loud. Apple benefits from this broken system staying broke. They get all the PR points for caring about privacy and holding developers accountable. But they avoid doing the expensive, difficult work of verification and enforcement. They get to look like the good guys while doing the absolute minimum required to maintain that reputation. It's brilliant marketing, really. Create a system that appears to solve the problem, make sure it's highly visible, and hope nobody looks too closely at whether it actually works. The really frustrating part is that Apple could fix this if they wanted to. They already scan apps for malware and policy violations. They could absolutely build automated systems to verify privacy labels against actual app behavior. They could require regular recertification for sensitive app categories. They could audit high-risk categories like VPNs and apps targeting kids. But all of that costs money, slows down app approvals, and would upset developers. So instead, we get security theater designed to make you feel protected while doing as little as possible to actually protect you. To recap, Apple's privacy labels are self-reported with zero verification. Apps have been caught lying, and Apple only acts after external researchers expose the lies. The labels have massive loopholes. Data not linked to you can still identify you through fingerprinting. Third-party SDKs often go undisclosed because developers don't fully understand what they collect. Developers can change their practices anytime between app updates, leaving labels outdated for months. And Apple benefits from maintaining this broken system. It gives them privacy, credibility, without the cost of real enforcement. You're not getting transparency, you're getting a performance of transparency. It's designed to make you stop asking questions about what apps really do. The labels create a false sense of security that might actually be more dangerous than having no labels at all. Because at least without them, you'd know to be suspicious of every app. Now you see that little nutrition label and think, Apple's got your back. When really you're just reading whatever story the developer decided to tell that day. So here's what I want to know. If Apple is serious about privacy, shouldn't they at least verify the labels? Are we all just supposed to keep pretending that the honor system works when millions of dollars are on the line? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you trust these labels? Have you caught an app lying about what it actually collects?